Hello Facebook Live, hello YouTube, hello Instagram Live. What's happening, everybody? Marcus here from Aroma Time. It is October 13th, and it is the morning. I'm sitting here at the bar getting some work done, and I wanted to talk about our tuna here at the restaurant. Make sure both cameras are set up here properly. There, that are on. All right, so got some people joining. Awesome. If you're tuning in live, as always, drop a comment, #live, and where you're tuning in from. That always helps. I am going to be talking about tuna and mahi today, and other fish that they add an additive to that kind of tricks you. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So if you can just drop a comment if you're live, that'd be great. The more comments that drop, the more people get to see this. And this is a video on one of the hidden ingredients of fish that you should know about, that you should definitely know about. Talk about the pros and cons of this ingredient, and in some countries this ingredient is banned, but not in the US. So I'm going to talk about that, and I'm just going to show you the difference here. So as you log on, do me a favor and just drop a comment. That'd be great. Then other people can see your comment and see the video. That's how Facebook and Instagram work. The more people that engage, the more people get to see it. So, good morning, everybody. My list of stuff to do today. I got a busy day, even though we're closed here on Tuesdays. So, all right, tuna. Sometimes people ask us what's wrong with our tuna, or our tuna's not, from your markets, your tuna's not fresh. Or I even had a couple recently and told me your tuna was bad. I couldn't eat it, it was bad. So we all eat with our eyes. We all eat with our eyes because we've been trained to for so long to look at food and see if it's good or not. You go into the grocery store, you don't see apples with blemishes. You don't see oranges that are half ripened. Everything is perfect. Things look great. And then all of a sudden you grow stuff in your own garden and it's like, wow, what got a hold of my basil? What got a hold of the kale? What got a hold of this? What got a hold of that? Or the peaches aren't ripening right and my peach tree that I planted. So we're just trained to eat with our eyes. And when our eyes play tricks on us, our eyes do play tricks on us. So tuna, if you go to a sushi restaurant and get tuna here in the US, and other countries too, some countries no, but if you go and get tuna, you will find this bright tuna. This bright tuna. Now that's not typically the natural color of the tuna. They gas it with carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide, they label it as an odorless gas on the fish. It is almost impossible to buy tuna and like mahi without this odorless gas or carbon monoxide on it. It's done in plants. You can look up the videos on YouTube of them actually gassing fish. Everybody's dressed up, they got masks on, they're covered, and they're pumping fish through this odorless gas or carbon monoxide. Now, we're actually talking about carbon monoxide as carbon monoxide. So this actually goes onto fish, and it gets pumped in the fish to make it retain its color. Now you can actually, here's the scary part, you can actually take fish that is bad, going bad, and pump it with CO2, and it turns bright. So it tricks the eye and tricks color. It turns the color. So the biggest issue with this fish that has carbon monoxide on it is it tricks your eyes into looking at something that looks fresher than it is. So, for example, here's our tuna. Our tuna comes frozen. It's albacore tuna from the Pacific Northwest. These are line-caught tuna, one of the most sustainable tunas, lowest mercury tuna out on the market. The whole tuna loin is about that big, and you can see so it's about that big, the whole tuna loin. These are small fish. The advantage of these tuna is it is old enough to reproduce, but it's not old enough to bioconcentrate all the harmful mercuries. We're not talking about mercury, we're going to be talking about carbon monoxide today, but that's the advantage of this tuna. So now, this tuna is caught, the season is only 6 weeks or 8 weeks long. That's all the season is. It gets caught on the boat, it gets frozen immediately, processed, and then packaged, and then we buy it frozen all year. So it arrives frozen, and we take it out and thaw it if we need it. So our tuna is super, super fresh. This was literally out of the water for literally 2 hours before it was frozen. It didn't have time to hit rigor mortis. This fish has 0 microbes. It's super fresh. So when we thaw this and sear this every 2 days at the restaurant, our tuna is literally 2 days old, 3 days old at the most. So when people say to me, "Oh, your tuna's bad, Marcus," I know it's not. I know it's not bad. Here's a piece of mahi. Same thing. It's mahi, line caught in Ecuador, but no gas on it, so it's not the right color that mahi usually is. So if you're looking at tuna, tuna's usually that bright red. So what happens is people don't see that bright red, and they assume that that fish is not good. Now, in certain countries like New Zealand and Australia, you're not allowed to serve by processed tuna or certain fish with carbon monoxide. You're not allowed to put it on, just other countries as well. But a lot of countries like the US, they allow it. Now, so you can take this tuna right here, or you can take fresh ahi tuna, these other tunas, when they're caught, and they look like a chocolate color, but chocolate isn't appealing. So once they gas it, it turns them like bright red. It turns them this bright red, and that's the color you see in sushi restaurants. That's the color you see when you go and see sashimi, or seared tuna, and you slice into it in a sandwich, and it's a steak, and it's that bright color. That's an artificial coloring. That's artificially induced, that coloring. Now, the biggest disadvantage to that is that you cannot tell visually when the fish is bad. Some experts say that it actually implies a tinny flavor onto the fish. So if you were to gas tuna and eat tuna by itself, that implies a tinny flavor. There's some of the experts say that. Here's the problem. You never would typically eat tuna by itself like that, because you're going to put a sauce on it, spicy sriracha. You're going to put some kind of mayo on it. You're going to put some wasabi and soy sauce. You're going to be putting some kind of sauce. You'll never take advantage of that true flavor of that tinny tuna. But a lot of experts do swear that it implies a tinny flavor to it. So you can take and I've seen this, perfectly bad tuna, that tuna that's not good, and because it's gassed, you can't tell that with your eyes, and it tricks you into eating it. So our tuna, it's not gassed, and a lot of people will say, or certain people will say, "Well, Marcus, I know my tuna," and this literally just happened 2-3 weeks ago. "I know my tuna, and your tuna was not good. Your tuna is not good." And when you explain to people, but of course their mind is already preset to thinking, well, it doesn't look good, and you can't convince somebody otherwise, so you can only maybe reassure them very kindly or nicely what we actually do. But once your mind is set on that, it's totally set on that. So, also another thing, white tuna, if you go to the sushi restaurant and get white tuna is not tuna at all. It's actually escalar. Tuna can serve as a trade name for certain fish too, just like bass can. There's only 3 types of real bass. All that other bass, like Chilean sea bass and all these other bass, are just trade names to sell a fish that normally wouldn't sell. So when it comes to tuna, they like to advertise escalar as white tuna. It's not white tuna. It's not tuna at all. Escalar makes some people sick. It causes digestive issues with certain people. Certain people have a lower tolerance than other people. Certain people have 0 tolerance for escalar. We've never served escalar because of that. It's just not a good thing. It'll make people. It gives them stomach cramps, and can send them to the bathroom. And that's not a good thing after you eat fresh fish. The next day to think that the restaurant sent you to the bathroom extensively. So, folks, that's our tuna. This is albacore tuna. There's no CO2 on here. CO2 on carbon monoxide on fish, a lot of fish, and it goes beyond mahi, and it goes beyond albacore tuna. There are other species that they use that, and it's very popular. It tricks you into thinking that it's higher quality. They can literally take a lower quality fish, net caught fish, where the fish were in a net all day long, beating themselves up, getting bruises. If you go online and do a little Google search for gassing tuna, you'll see how they take fish that's not such a great color, that's bruised, gas it, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, that looks like it's sushi quality. It is a very, very deceptive way to trick you into thinking you're eating something higher quality than it is. And it's common, it's very, very rampant. In fact, I don't know of really much tuna you can buy on the market that actually is ungassed here in the US. So obviously you're buying canned tuna or something, that's different. But when you go to buy even fresh tuna, they don't even need to freeze the tuna. The tuna can be fresh, never frozen tuna that is totally gassed. But in the frozen world, if you're near a restaurant depot, you can walk in and just take a look in the freezer section. They allow consumers, regular consumers in restaurant depots, you can just walk right into the freezer section and look right at the tunas and stuff. It's super inexpensive. It's like $7 a pound, $7.95 a pound, $7.50 a pound, $6.50 a pound for stuff that looks like stunning like sushi grade tuna, which is by far the farthest thing from that. This costs us far more than $7 a pound. This is actually on our retail list. If you want to buy this, you can buy these for $19.99 a pound if anybody's asking. Mahi is a better value on our list. Mahi is one of those fish that is super sustainable because it grows in its prime season. It can grow up to 10% of its body weight a day, so the fish grows very quickly. There's plentiful stock. There's two different types of catch methods for mahi. There is what's called long line, where they've strung out mile-long hooks, 1,000 hooks. They let it sit there all day. It's an equatorial fish, so down in Peru, Ecuador, up into Florida, and even up into South Carolina. And so you have a range of warm water that mahi's in. But if you're fishing mahi and you're on the wrong side of the current, you're not going to get mahi on these long lines. You're going to catch shark, other things. You're going to catch sea turtles, endangered sea turtles, and when things come back up off of these, I've been told by professional fishermen that when they get the wrong fish on the hook for these long lines, they actually cut the jaws off of the fish and throw the fish back in. Of course, the shark, whatever it is, dies. So that's one method of catching mahi, is called long line. 1,000 hooks, mile long. You throw it out for 8 hours, 6 hours, how many ever hours, and reel it back in. And you have you could potentially have all the wrong fish, partially the wrong fish, endangered sea turtles on there. So it's not the best catch method for mahi. The other catch method of mahi is called line caught, where it's one line, one hook. The tuna is line caught, our tuna's line caught, our salmon's line caught, our mahi is line caught. Line caught means they're going to be smaller fish, because the long lines are hydraulic. You throw them out there, that's it, and you can reel literally 1,000 fish up. That's all done hydraulically. When you're casting a line and you're dealing with more of one person, one line, so the fish are smaller fish. If there is the wrong fish when it's caught, the wrong fish is immediately released and thrown back into the water. Not the jaw cut off and thrown back in to die. The hooks, those long line hooks, cost $1 each. So for the fishing vessels, if you're thinking about it, if you catch 2, 3, 4, 500 of the wrong fish every day, you're throwing $200, $300 out by snipping the line and letting the hook dissolve in the fish. So they actually save the hook by cutting the jaw out of the fish and then throwing the fish overboard. It's really, we had a professional fisherman here telling me this years ago, and sometimes he logged onto my last video online here about this, and he was like, I'm the one who told you that, and it's horrific. It is very horrific, that kind of those kind of catch methods. So yeah, that's the story on tuna. Can you buy this tuna in stores? You can. But again, it's not that popular. A lot of places don't sell it. Whole Foods might have a tuna like this. A health food store might have a tuna like this. But it's typically not popular because, again, we eat with our eyes. And when we see tuna that is this color, as opposed to a very bright red, it plays tricks on us. But this is actually fresher than any of those other ones you can actually buy that are frozen. A lot of those ones that are the inexpensive ones, a lot of restaurants buy these. A lot of restaurants get away with this because it looks good, and it's really not as good as it looks. I've actually seen some of that gas stuff, or been around that gas stuff, where I can smell. There's like an off odor on it. It's not like a fresh odor on it. This will have zero odor. This will have zero odor when you open it up and thaw it. It's amazing. So that's the story with that. So CO2, carbon monoxide, it's the hidden ingredient in a lot of fish. It's what makes fish that bright color. It's banned in several countries. It's legal here in the US. It will trick you into thinking fish is fresher than it actually is. Sushi restaurants do it. All restaurants do it. That's just part of the industry. That's what happens. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Again, drop a comment. The more comments you drop, the more people will see this. It's about educating people on real food and the ingredients that go into our food. There's lots of other videos on my YouTube channel under the health tab that talk about this. There's some great documentaries on my YouTube channel about salmon, about just the way fish is farmed and raised, and all sorts of things like that. So there's a lot of my own work, and there's a lot of other work that I've shared on there from other people that have produced some really, really high quality content. So go check out my YouTube channel for that kind of stuff. And that's it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the support. Jamie and I we've been very busy here during COVID. So we really appreciate all of your support. Our grocery store is a huge hit. So we have a lot of grocery items like this on our grocery list, and salmon, wild, line caught, true Alaskan, one hook, one line, coho salmon. Same thing for like mahi, how mahi has two very drastic price differences. Like literally the mahi, if I was concerned about price, I could literally go to the grocery store and full retail pay less than I pay for our mahi. Full retail in a grocery store. Because again, if you're catching long line, it's a cheaper catch method. You catch more fish at one time. You process more fish at one time as opposed to one hook, one line. This is twice the price of other mahi that we pay. I can buy I can literally buy mahi for like $4 a pound if I had to. Like Restaurant Depot, I think it's $3.95 a pound. It's massive, big mahis, so it's long line caught mahis. You look at it, has a rainbow, and the color on it is beautiful. It looks nothing like this color. And I know on Facebook, I think you might be able to get a little better color than on Instagram, but that's the color on both. So it looks this beautiful color. Let me show you the tuna again. So that is the actual color of the tuna. So same thing with salmon. Salmon as far as catch methods. You can buy salmon that's gill netted or caught in big nets, that's wild Alaskan. The disadvantage to buying fish that linger in nets, especially gill nets. So gill net is a method where you have the nets are dropped in the river, the mouth, and the fish swim through the nets if they're small enough. But if the fish is big enough, the hole is a certain size and the fish will swim in and get its gills, its head caught into the gill net. And when the fish tries to back out, the gills get caught. So the fish sits there and tries to get out and flaps around literally for hours sometimes, and goes through an excruciating death and gets stressed out, and the meat is not as good. So when you see wild salmon from Alaska, it's always about the catch method. Was the fish caught? This is why there's such a vast price difference. All of our tuna, all of our salmon is 100% line caught. Comes from a small co-op. It is 100% line caught, no net caught. We pay extra for that, and we're very, very proud to pay extra for that. And the same thing with our other fish, all line caught, one hook. It costs more, some cases twice the price, but we're happy to pay for that. It's the right thing to do. Yeah. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. If you learned something today, just drop a comment, share it with somebody else. We really, really appreciate that. And everybody stay safe, eat healthy, and enjoy the fall.